But speaking in front of an audience from Ukraine remains something special every time. While attacks are once again being carried out on Kyiv, it has been calm here in Western Europe for 70 years. Nor could the contrast be greater than the difference in values between Moscow on the one hand and the EU and its partners on the other. Putin said a few days ago that he was, I'm quoting, he was satisfied with the drone attacks. How is it possible to be satisfied with death and with destruction? So this is, for me, it's a moral aberration. The distinction between Kyiv and the current Russian regime lies in values. Values like freedom, sovereignty, and democracy, but above all, there is a fundamentally different understanding of the value of a human person. For the Soviets, a human being was a result of a division of 1 million divided by 1 million. In fact, therefore, worthless. In the eyes of the Putin regime, this applies not only to a Ukrainian life, but equally to that of a Russian soldier. The dead are just numbers. For us, Ukrainians, European Union citizens, every human being is sacred. Every human being counts. The time of radical nationalism is over in the European Union. No one dreams anymore of the empires of yesterday. We have been living in a new era since 70 years, and the people of Ukraine will one day participate in that longing for what we call eternal peace. I wanted to say that from the start in this short message. Because the battlefield lies within your legal national borders. But the consequences of this war extend worldwide. If we have to talk about scarcity of food and energy today, its origin lies in the February 24 invasion. If we talk about high inflation and the impending recession and employment in almost all countries all over the globe, one should not look far for the culprits. So facts are the greatest enemy of prejudices, of interests, and of ideologies. Rarely has negative interdependence been so strongly demonstrated. The local and the global touch each other, but as I said, in a negative way. The spread of misery is also why at the United Nations General Assembly, 143 out of 193 countries supported the resolution affirming Ukraine's sovereignty within its internationally recognized borders. Along with Russia, only four countries voted against it: Belarus, Syria, Nicaragua, and North Korea. I would not like to have those rogue states as friends. For many countries, there are limits to what is unjust and illegal. Dear friends, the duty of those that have the responsibility for running a country, the duty of rulers, is the welfare and the happiness of their citizens. People want to live a normal life for themselves, for their children, their parents, their families, and they have a right to that. Nostalgic nationalism wants them to believe that their happiness depends on the greatness of the state. A certain form of geopolitics disregards human values. It is preoccupied with abstractions, the greatness of the state, that have nothing to do with real life. There needs to be a movement back to basics, Life is living together. Life needs not to be a war where man is a wolf to another man. So the moral outrage over what is happening in Ukraine remains strong. Despite the social crisis in the European Union, due to the energy shortage, hardly anyone is calling for the lifting or easing of sanctions against Russia. Solidarity remains strong. So I lost my text. Solidarity remains strong. It is yet another miscalculation by the unworldly and conscienceless regime in Moscow. The governments and people of the Union remains ready, together with the US, to help you in your struggle. We will also be ready to assist you in rebuilding the country after the war. You will be able to call on our solidarity long before you become effective members of the European Union. But first things first, the reconstruction should allow the country to leap into a modern economy. Poland and Ukraine had roughly the same national income per capita in 1990, 30 years ago. Even before February 24, Poland was relatively, perhaps even 5 times as prosperous compared to Ukraine. The reason is simple. Poland, meanwhile, has been a member of the European Union for almost 20 years. Prosperity came without oligarchs and the corruption they bring. Prosperity goes with competition, but also with fairness and with freedom. So values are also profitable. Democracies, by the way, are doing much better than some authors would have us believe. Autocracies are in breadlessness in Russia, in Turkey, in Brazil, and other countries. And even China's economic model is facing bigger internal problems than many presume. The Union is proving that in 1 year or a little more, it can free itself from dependence on Russian gas. Europe's economies and people are resilient and flexible. They proved that during and after the COVID crisis. They are demonstrating that again now. The number of friends of Russia and China is not large anymore, not even in China, not even in Asia, unless the ones they paid, but that is never sustainable. So there is no reason to despair. The time of democracy is not over. The time of great empires is not dawning again. The end of ideologies is much closer than the end of values. The West is not decadent, war is decadent. The West is not weak. People who easily submit and obey, they are weak. We are peace-loving, but we are now at the stage of legitimate self-defense and just war. A war is never holy. Only human beings are holy. Religions and believers should realize this. President Lincoln once said that God should not be with us, but we should be on God's side. Ladies and gentlemen, CIFE, as a European institution from the founding of the European community, has been committed to the process of cooperation and integration since 1954. Personalism is part of its raison d'être, its reason for existence. It was among the first institutions, CIFE, offering interdisciplinary academic programs on European integration. CIFE is based in Nice, in France, in Berlin, in Brussels, and in Istanbul. It wants to share with you its conviction and its expertise and enrich its own insights through dialogue. It's a two-way street. It is cooperation. And the Memorandum of Understanding foresees a collaboration on joint research programs and an exchange of academic staff, researchers, and students within study programs. Future membership of the European Union should be academically and intellectually prepared and underpinned. The new generation in Ukraine must be able to learn about what the Union was, what it is, and what it wants to become. Most of their lives, of the lives of a younger generation, will take place in that European framework. Ukraine will become one of the largest members of the European Union, geographically and in terms of population. It must be a democratic beacon in your part of the European continent, so that the dream of a democracy from the Atlantic to the Urals becomes a reality. In 1959, President de Gaulle pronounced these words. He added that the fate of the world, I'm quoting him, of the world depended on this large European community. We must continue to dream. We draw strength from this. The stakes of the struggle of the people of Ukraine transcend time and space. It extends beyond its historical boundaries, however important they are. But first things first. Today is about your sovereignty and your freedom. We are with you for the long haul, for better and for worse. The cooperation between our two institutions is also an illustration of that. We want to work on this together. Hope is a verb. Thank you so much.